back to the Geek Speak Radio Show on TalkZone.com. Here's Henry and Romo.
Well, Henry, at least. Welcome back to the Geek Speak Radio Show. We're talking to Alexander and Joseph Logos. They're the creators and writers of the Sons of Liberty, a book that I have been enjoying with my son since it came out about, 4 months ago now. So, guys, welcome back on Geek Speak Radio Show.
Thank you.
So let's get into the book itself now. First of all, how long have you had this idea in your head?
Gosh, it was actually originally born in a dream back in 2001. I think basically what it was is that there was I was reading a lot and watching a lot of history programs about the American Revolution, about Benjamin Franklin, and about slavery and everything, and reading comics and everything. And I think it culminated into an exciting dream one night. And I woke, and in the dream, I was sitting in a movie theater, and I saw these two guys in masks wearing tricorn hats, leaping from building to building while being chased by a army of redcoats. And they're all being shot at. And at one point, the two guys jump down in an alleyway, and they take off their masks, and I see that they're two African-American guys. And I literally jumped out of my bed. I woke up and I was like, wrote this down on a piece of paper, and started working on the idea a little bit, and called my brother. And my brother has always, been a serious writer since he was a small child. So I knew that he would know how best to craft the story. And so I shared it with him, and he immediately had incredible new ideas to add to it and to really develop it. And this, we got serious about it, and probably by the end of 2002, we realized we had something really unique and special, and we stuck it out. We kept working on it, and taking almost 10 years to work on this series has probably been more of a blessing than a curse, because it allowed us the time to really research and learn the period, and really get as much out of it and incorporate as much as we could into the story, and yet still keep the fun aspects of superhero and action and adventure in it. That's
one of the things that actually got my son involved, or really intrigued with the story, because he saw me reading it, and like everything else I read, he said, "Hey, Dad, what is that?" So we started reading together, and he actually thought that Benjamin Franklin was hiding two real superheroes in it, but I had to explain to him that it's not real, because it is very authentic the way you guys did it.
Well, thank you. That's great. Yeah, it's a labor of love. The characters themselves they have a life of their own, and they have dreams and they have goals in their life, and that's something that we wanted to make sure that stays throughout the series. These are living beings that have ideas, that they have emotions, that they have feelings, that they have goals, and just like anyone else. And their circumstances, who they are and what they've become, it brings a lot of questions into the story, and it makes you ask a lot of things about yourself and what you think and how you feel about that period in history and how things actually turned out after the war, and the expectations, and a lot of the people who were expecting to have their freedom, they were denied their freedom at the end of that particular war. And you kind of live that with these characters, and you feel what they feel, and it's a very strong story. And
you have to ask that question. You have to ask that question of what would two runaway slaves who gain extraordinary powers and don masks, what would they do with those powers at that time? How would they deal with living in a time of slavery, war, and the birth of a nation? How would they respond to everything that's happening around them, knowing that they're persecuted, knowing that if anybody really discovers that they have these powers, what would happen to them as well? And should they get involved with the revolution? Should they get involved with the horror of slavery around them, or should they just use their powers and just run away, just escape and leave everything behind? So the reason for these guys to wear masks are probably more powerful than most superheroes you've ever read about. Being in that time period and being faced with it's just it's much more powerful, I think.
Matter of fact, there is one panel that really highlights that, and it pretty much summarizes the entire slavery issues, where it says that slavery is based on one race being better. I'm paraphrasing here, better than the other. And these two, with the powers that they have, they'll throw that completely out of whack. I love how you guys wrote that in.
There's Steve Walker's art is really phenomenal as well. There's a scene in particular when there's a flashback scene, if you recall, during the time when Benjamin Lay is in Barbados, and you see the slaves are lined up after they've been taken off the ship, and they're being checked out by the slave handlers. And on the other side, right across from there, is Benjamin Lay checking the furniture that's being unloaded. So you see that these are...
Benjamin Lay became an abolitionist, just to give you a...
Yes, he did. Well, I should throw that in. He was a real-life character, an abolitionist, and somebody who really believed in his cause and he sacrificed his life for that, and his entire life was dedicated to the cause of abolition during that period of time. But he, at the time, when he was a younger man, in real life, he was a furniture merchant. He was an importer, but he had nothing to do with the slave trade. But it explains this in the story. But you can actually see how these two things were different. Goods being imported, people being imported, but they're still regarded the same way. They were just
property.
And that's illustrated there. And Steve Walker captured that in his artwork perfectly, I think, for that particular panel. And
there's some powerful stuff in it. There's definitely some powerful.
There's a lot of powerful stuff. There's a lot of stuff in there that really that we felt very strongly about, and I think that since the issue we talk about, a lot of people seem to think that the slavery issue is something that happened in the past that doesn't exist, but there are a lot of people in this world today who are enslaved, and
right.
And so this is a message that rings true today as well. There are people out there who are considered property, who are used every day, who are put to extraordinary, extreme physical situations where they have to endure every day. It's almost a punishment. It's painful, and it's just the same way it was during that period of time. And that's something that we think that's important to kind of bring to the forefront of people's consciousness, and it's something that needs to be reminded of what that was, that period of time, how people lived, and how some people are living today.
And also just captures the sense of your own cultural identity in America.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that America is built on multicultures, and everything that exists today is we should be grateful for everybody of every race who's had a part of that, and establishing what we have today.
Definitely, the contributions. I think history books have a tendency to sort of neglect. I think. I mean, I'm generalizing here. I'm not specifically saying that any particular history book, but there are quite a few history books that seem to ignore the contributions of a lot of the people who gave the most, I think,
right.
and to the formation of this nation. And this story explores that as well. That explores the contributions of people and what they did and how they went about doing it, but in a fun way. And
the thing is that we wanted to make sure we had a balance of real drama, real history, real events, and also the tragedy of the history as well, but also a fun, superhero, exciting adventure. It's a cool adventure as well. There's a lot to come.
Yeah, it's working with my son.
Geek Speak Radio Show will be right back.